Assalamu alaikum. So I thought I'd come live and I share with you my black card collard green recipe. I call it my black card collard green recipe because this recipe will help me achieve my black card back and then some. So collard greens are a delicious green. The first thing you have to do is they come in full leaves. You have to devein them, which means there's a thick stalk in between. Looks sort of like this when you take the stalk out, and then you just cut the collard greens up into about 1 inch. I am using garlic, so I have about 3 cloves of garlic here, a half of an onion, and this is grated. This is a fresh turmeric, and this is about not bigger than this. This is probably about a 4-inch turmeric root, and those are my ingredients. I am going to use, so gotta turn my stove on. I'm going to be very generous with my olive oil. Olive oil, lots of olive oil. Inside of my pan, we're gonna let that get hot. Look at the ingredients for a minute because I gotta run and get one more thing. My 5th ingredient is actually tomatoes, and in particular, cherry tomatoes. So one of the great things about cherry tomatoes in particular is the antioxidant lycopene is actually much more abundant in cherry tomatoes than even vine tomatoes. Lycopene is an antioxidant. It helps to get rid of free radicals in the body. It's actually, for guys, it has been shown to be very effective in both prevention and treatment of prostate cancer, among many other cancers, including stomach cancer, intestinal cancer, and colon cancer. All have been shown to actually decrease with the more lycopene inside of your diet. The lycopene is increased in 2 ways. Number 1, in the type of tomato in particular, and number 2, when the tomato is cooked, it increases the lycopene by almost 200%. So we're going to add those. So those are like an extra ingredient. So first thing I got is I have my oil that's nice and hot, and I'm going to sweat my onions. All right? So that's first thing. You got to get my onions. And so first thing, when you sweat your onions, you want to get them, they always smell so good right from the beginning. You want to get them until they are almost translucent. I don't cook them until they're brown. We cook them until they start looking a bit see-through, right? So as you can see, they're starting to change color slightly. Now, I also add my garlic right after that. So that's my chopped garlic. Now, this is an immune boosting recipe, which means we want to add all of the things that are going to boost our immune system. We are in the middle of cold and flu season. We also are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. And with both of those things, even if you can't avoid getting sick altogether, you can at the very least give yourself a fighting chance of fighting off those symptoms as much as possible. Garlic and onion is the base of every immune boosting food that you're going to want to make. We know that garlic is antiviral, it's antibacterial, it literally boosts the immune system. Onions and garlic are of the same allium family, which means that they are in the same vegetation family and they have a lot of the same properties. So we are doubling the properties of immune boosting by starting off with garlic and onions. And that's not really unusual, right? So I call these my black card recipe because collard greens is a black culinary tradition for African Americans. But when I was younger, I actually didn't like them. And I used to feel really, really guilty for not liking them because I felt like they're part of the black tradition and I shouldn't like it. I was somehow rejecting part of my blackness by not liking collard greens. Okay, that's a little dramatic, but I really didn't feel that way. But my taste must change as I get older. So, now that I have got my garlic and onion, you can see little slight brown pieces of garlic at the bottom. You don't want it to be super cooked and cooked down. You want it to start to get translucent. Now I'm going to add my turmeric. So, turmeric is the piece a la resistance, right? So I want to say this about turmeric, which is super important. Turmeric is really, really good for anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, antioxidants, but it's only that way because of curcumin, which is the property inside of turmeric. The reason why I am adding extra oil is because it's actually quite hard for our bodies to get the curcumin, which is all the beneficial properties of turmeric, out of the turmeric. But what we can do in order to do that, so now I'm going to add the greens. So a couple of things about the greens. I actually rinsed them off and you see there is some water inside of it. The reason why I leave some water in it is because it's going to be wet when I put them in there to steam. So first, I'm going to add a couple, just a tad bit of water. And let it steam down. I am now going to add, this is super important. You got to add pepper. If you are using turmeric for anything, you must add pepper to the turmeric. Add a little bit of salt. This is to taste. I got my ancestral spoon I posted the other day. I feel like when I'm using a wooden spoon, the ancestors are speaking. My culinary epigenetics come through. Right? So once the first part of the greens, so you see how they start to cook down slightly, they're still nice and bright. I'm going to add more on top of that, right? More greens on top of that. I think I can add all the rest of them too. All right? And when I add those more greens, I'm going to add a little bit more pepper. I would much rather add a little bit of sea salt. That's just to taste, right? And we are going to let these cook down. So, the important thing that I want to say about turmeric in particular is, in order for you to get the properties of the curcumin out of the turmeric, you absolutely must do three things. One, you have to add fat. Fat is curcumin is a fat soluble nutrient. It needs fat in order to get into your cells. So if you are having turmeric inside of a smoothie, or you're just adding it to, I don't know, greens or vegetables that don't have fat in them, then you're actually not getting it into your cells efficiently. You have to add fat to your turmeric. The second thing that you have to do is it has to be paired with pepper, because pepper has a component that's called pepperin, and it increases the absorption of the curcumin by as much as 2,000%. So that's the second thing. The third thing that really releases the curcumin properties is heat. So it's important when it comes to using turmeric in a way that you're actually going to get the beneficial properties. So my greens are really nice and bright. All right. One of the things about that you want to make sure that you are doing is you don't want to cook them down to their brown. You want them to be nice and bright like that, right? They should have a little bit of substance to them. Now, here is a little thing extra that I do for my particular recipe is I actually add tomatoes, right? So these are the tomatoes that are cherry tomatoes. Let me rinse them real quick. Let me get that. Even though they're cherry tomatoes, I actually like to cut them in half. That also allows my greens to go ahead and cook down. Now, when I first decided that I was going to go into this culinary journey to collard greens, I got lots of great recipes from my Facebook friends. And then I started experimenting on my own things that is going to help. So, here is a little trick about adding tomatoes. When you add tomatoes to any food, tomatoes have the two shining stars of tomatoes are the vitamin C and the lycopene. When you cook tomatoes, you are decreasing the vitamin C slightly, but you are increasing the lycopene. So this is where where you have to really have the philosophy. What is your intentions behind what you are putting inside of your food? If your intentions is to increase your vitamin C, then you may want to have the tomatoes inside of a salad and have them uncooked. If your intentions is to increase the cancer-fighting lycopene antioxidant, then you want to cook them. They tested tomatoes in its lycopene content after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 15 minutes. And cooking them for about 15 minutes increased the lycopene by about 176%, almost 200%. So 5 minutes only increased the lycopene by about 30%. 10 minutes increased the lycopene a little bit more. I think it was somewhere around 70 or 80%. 15 minutes actually increased the lycopene, meaning that it is going to be bioavailable to you. It is going to, you're going to be able to access it, and it's going to be able to be used by your cells. So this is how I'm getting my black card back, y'all. It is absolutely delicious. So I'm not going to stay on for the whole cooking. I'm going to cook it down probably for another 10 minutes or so, stirring it periodically. And those are my black card collard greens. So hopefully you can make them, keep your immune system nice and strong, practice social distancing, and I will see you next time I come on to share a recipe. Assalamu alaikum.